on Twitter as well. So let's get to this one here first. From Amanda Berry. Hashtag HJB, hashtag HeyWalt. Do you guys think it's Brian Laundrie's remains? We have no idea of knowing, but let's just point out the blatantly obvious. There has never been this much attention paid to Myakkahatchee. Never had this much attention in law enforcement. As far as law enforcement resources being poured into this one spot. So if the medical examiner is there, and let's not forget, Walt, again, going back here a couple of weeks ago, really a month ago now, when they found the body at Carlton Reserve, that was somebody else, they put it out immediately.
Pretty quickly.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
They said, we found a body. Don't freak out. We found a body. Right. It is not Brian Laundrie. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was somebody who had took their own life at the Carlton Reserve. And they had just come across a body in their search. So
another thing to point out, the FBI did not offer a news release or a tweet back then. In this case, the FBI tweeted items of interest were located at the Carlton Reserve this morning in connection with the search for Brian Laundrie. Now, then we find out the medical examiner's out there as well. The FBI has not said anything about human remains, but we hear that through NBC's sources that there are human remains, and we do know there's a medical examiner. So do we think it's Brian Laundrie? I'm not going to answer that question, but there is a lot of what I would call circumstantial evidence that would make you suspect that they think they have Brian Laundrie.
Tapping the touchscreen here, we got a new feed available to show our audience, and it's from the home of Chris and Roberta Laundrie. Still media attention here outside of the home. There you can see the silver Ford Mustang convertible that we have been talking about. And as we understand it, I will try to answer this question from Siobhan Owen. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt. Do we know where the Laundrie parents are now? Back home or still at the Reserve? As we understand it, the Laundrie parents, Chris and Roberta, are here in Northport at their home.
Their vehicles are there, so
correct.
Logical. And I'm sure this is not something anybody's talking about, but they if this is Brian Laundrie, they lost a child as well. They've received a lot of criticism, and, they're just taunting, and I've criticized that, and I got called a moron for criticizing it, but I'm sorry. Fair is fair, and they're not charged with anything at this point, and they've lost a son. If this is true, they've lost a son as well.
And let me explain. I think the foundation and the core of the vitriol for Chris and Roberta Laundrie. Let me explain where that stems from. When Gabby was missing, and Joe Petito, Gabby's dad, and Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom, all they wanted were answers. And they were calling, texting, doing everything that they could, trying to get a hold of Chris and Roberta and Brian at the time, and doing everything that they could just to get an answer. Where's Gabby? They didn't care. They point to a map. Just tell us, where's Gabby? We want to find our daughter. And those calls went unreturned, as we understand it. And that...
And I get the anger about that.
There's
and
just
the
tremendous...
And yes, I get it. I get it.
Why not even take that call? Is a question that is going to persist and linger in this case. Why not take that call? Even take that call. Why ignore your future in-laws? I think that still is a source of frustration for a lot of people who have been on this story. And yeah, now if this is true, and if the partial human remains do in fact belong to Brian Laundrie, and Brian Laundrie is deceased, this is another set of parents that have lost a child or lost a loved one. Brian Laundrie being 23 years old, he is now an adult male, of course, but to them, it's losing a child. And that would be, of course, extraordinarily heartbreaking for Chris and Roberta Laundrie. It would be and there's a story there as well. What did Chris and Roberta actually
Is Marissa purposely standing in front of the news?
He did drive the vehicle home. How did we get from that point to the point that we're at now? And I am just curious. Will Chris and Roberta Laundrie ever explain to the world what happened? Will they ever provide answers? We've had one family that has not been shy as far as talking to the media. I met with them during their visit here to Florida, what was that, a week and a half ago now. And just they have been very open and honest throughout this process, even as they've been dealing with tremendous grief. Will there be openness and honesty from Chris and Roberta Laundrie? But let's also just keep in mind that they are going through an extraordinarily difficult day, provided that these partial human remains do in fact belong to their son. This would be a parent's nightmare.
Yeah.
It doesn't get worse for a parent to learn that you've lost your child. So, but there's still people that just want to know the fundamental answer to the fundamental question: what happened?
What do they know, and why didn't they tell anybody? Obviously, though, we know that by the time Brian Laundrie, or we know from what the FBI has said, by the time Brian Laundrie was back in Florida on September 1st, Gabby Petito was already deceased, according to investigators. So there's no knowing, we don't know what he told his parents. We have no idea. There's been only speculation about that. But yes, what we do know now is, or what we suspect now, if this is the body of Brian Laundrie, they have lost a son. Obviously, the outpouring is going to be far greater for Gabby Petito because she's the victim of a homicide. Will we ever know who committed that homicide? What sort of evidence does the FBI have? Do they have enough evidence? Will they even present the evidence if they do determine that this is Brian Laundrie? Do they even release that evidence? I wish I knew that answer. I don't believe they have to release the evidence. I know that their search warrants, their affidavits will eventually be public because they have to be. They can only be sealed for a certain time, so we will know more from that. But what will the FBI release? It's a high-profile case, and the FBI, I'm sorry, they love headlines too. They love headlines. They love to solve crimes, and they love headlines because I think their funding, I'm sure, is fine, but they need to prove that funding. They love the headlines. So do they respond to the public outcry for information? And if this indeed is Brian Laundrie, do they explain what they know? Do they release what they know? Because there's not going to be a court case. There could be a lawsuit, though. There could still be a lawsuit. There could still be a lawsuit filed by the Petitos and the Schmidt family. That could still happen, and that would force the release of some information. That's still a possibility.
We're going to get to more #HeyJB, #HeyWalt questions and comments in a moment. File them in now because I'm going to start looking for them here in a second. Our team is going to add them to the queue. So if you want your comment to be featured, if you want to be part of our interactive coverage here and you want to point out something to us or ask something, use #HeyJB, #HeyWalt now, and we'll start to look for those. But I want to make something clear. And I am on the record saying this for the last several weeks as I've had an opportunity to process the timeline, as I have had an opportunity to process what has occurred since Brian's return home to Florida from Wyoming, from the cross-country road trip with Gabby Petito. There's one thing that has just always stuck out to me as very strange, and it's the Fort DeSoto camping trip. Going camping, appearing to be happy, being with your sister and being with your nephew or nephews.
Something breaking right now. JB's looking at a message.
Yeah. All right, folks, 4:30, there's going to be a statement to the media, the FBI, and we have seen this come up in the comment section, okay? We know that there's been talk of this. It's now confirmed. It is 100% confirmed. The FBI has put out a press release. They are going to be making an announcement at 4:30 Eastern Time. That is 1 hour and 5 minutes from now. We're going to be live on WFLA, and we're not going anywhere. You know that. We're going to be live on WFLA now.
Are they holding a news conference? Is that what it said?
They are holding a news conference. And they say that they are going to be reading or releasing a statement. And I'm going to just...
Oh, boy.
From covering many federal press conferences or FBI press conferences, I can assure you that it's going to be very similar to the last FBI press conference, which was held in Wyoming, of course, where Gabby Petito's remains were found. I'm just going to tell you that it's going to be them reading a statement and no question or answer. I'd be shocked, Walt, if they answer questions at this press conference. Because can you imagine? Can you imagine for a second just how many questions there are to answer? There's no way they could be live for an hour and not answer half of them. The questions that people have about this story.
Did they answer questions when they released? No. They did not. Okay.
If I remember correctly.
The FBI, that is standard operating procedure. So I get that. That's interesting, and I think it also is telling. But it still could go either way. I'm not going to say it's definitely one thing or the other. By the way, quick update. Not that it's not that big a deal. That item we saw in that under the blue tent appears to be the bag for the tent, not the backpack. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say. So I mean, but again, 4:30, an hour and 4 minutes away, and that could be a very huge piece to this very tragic puzzle.
It's an hour from now, and we'll be live on WFLA Now across all platforms to learn what the FBI, or at least what the FBI has to say today. Here, our photographer zooming in on some of the signs that are out there, including a Justice for Gabby sign. Let's not remember, this is all about justice for Gabby. This is all about finding and seeking the truth. But I want to wrap up what I was saying about the Fort DeSoto camping trip. It was so normal to do that. So normal. If your family is dealing with crisis, going camping isn't really high on your priority list. And I've talked about this at great length on previous streams, and I'm reiterating some of the comments that I have made previously. It just always, when people ask me, JB, what is there something about this that particularly just doesn't feel right to you? And I always point to the September 6th, September 7th camping trip. That's a week after Brian Laundrie got back and is camping with his family. Cassie Laundrie was there with her family. Chris and Roberta were there. It was Lot 001, waterfront at Fort DeSoto campground there in southern Pinellas County. And did Chris and Roberta really know? Did Cassie have any idea? Now, the question has always been, why wouldn't you? If you're Brian Laundrie, aren't you telling your parents what has happened or that something occurred? If you're going down that road and you're thinking like that. But that's based on the assumption that, again, Brian Laundrie had a direct connection to Gabby Petito's death, which I think a lot of people automatically, or there's nothing that you're going to tell to people that tells them otherwise. But if you go beyond that for a second, that we don't have any idea whether or not Brian Laundrie told his parents what had happened on the road. Right. Or if he did, whether he wasn't telling the truth and wasn't being honest. So there's been all of this vitriol for Chris and Roberta Laundrie, but it all circles back to, why wouldn't Chris and Roberta take a phone call from Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom and dad? Why aren't you answering the phone? If Chris and Roberta Laundrie were here right now, that's probably the first thing I would ask them. Again, just semantics-based question. Of course, they're dealing with an extremely trying time here today, as we're about to learn in an hour from now what these partial remains are that have been found at the Carlton Reserve. But if we were talking about just semantics of the case, I would say, was there a reason why you didn't? What was the exact reason why you were not taking the Petito-Schmidt phone calls at that time when they were just trying to desperately find their daughter, as any mom and dad would?
It's a great point. It's a question we may never know the answer to. Do they actually ever come forward and tell us? They've been obviously, stressful situation for them to be in, obviously, beyond stressful. They know Gabby. They know Brian. They may know what happened. But, that the camping trip to me is less of a mystery only because I know how popular that campground is.
But why go camping? But why go camping if there was something terrible that occurred, especially if you're Brian Laundrie?
Maybe they didn't know. Right. Well, right.
If you're Brian,
right,
you're going camping. and eating s'mores and staring out at a beautiful sunset.
Well, you could take a dive into his mind and
we've done that.
Right, and realize that not everybody has the same conscience and that.
And we were
thing.
we were talking yesterday, Walt, and I wish that you had been part of our stream yesterday. I was talking with Josh Benson about how in some cases of extremely, in the minds of a person, and again, we're speaking in generalities here. We're not speaking about Brian Laundrie, but in the minds of somebody that commit an extremely violent crime, that some minds will automatically revert to straight denial. And
Absolutely.
will create and fabricate
Absolutely.
a reality within their mind that they did not occur such a heinous act, or did they not commit such a heinous act.
Well, I get the question a lot from various stories we cover, and people will ask, how could somebody do that? And I always tell them the same thing. You have a conscience. And again, I'm speaking in general terms. We don't know anything that Brian did other than allegedly use Gabby Petito's credit card. We don't know anything else, and sadly, we may never know. We will only be able to suspect. There will never, this case, if this is Brian Laundrie's remains, will never be tried. And the information, we may have to pry it out of the FBI. We don't know. But again, people who commit crimes, people who commit strangulations, whoever did it, that is a personal crime, where you are staring at the victim and you are doing that for what amounts to 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes. And it's horrifying to imagine being on either side of that, and then to imagine anybody, whoever it was, being capable of doing that. It's not, thankfully it's not normal. And that type of person could very well not feel guilt. You don't know. We don't know. So maybe the parents didn't know. If the parents knew and still went out for some more, now we've got a whole other problem.
I'm torn on this, honestly. I am torn. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. I'll let them kind of... Can you guys hear me?
But we suspect at that point...
I want to say something about this Marissa chick that is making sure she's well seen on this news stream here. You know, you can't sit there and tell everybody it's not about the views when you're making damn sure people see that you're there. It's all about the views for you. Secondly, I truly hope that the protesters do realize what JB and Walt have been saying, and everybody else has been saying here too, is that if this is Brian, his parents just lost a child. Yes, he probably killed Gabby. They may or may not have known. Nobody really knows. But the fact is they still might have lost a child. So I really, really hope that the protesters don't use this, if this is how it's going to play out, this weak moment that the family is having, as a way to pry themselves in there to get answers. Because you know what? As much as we want answers and as much as the Petito Schmidt family deserve answers, the truth is we may never really fully know what the fuck happened. But what we do know is that Gabby's dead. And there's family and tons of people hurting because of that. And hurting because nobody knew the answers and nobody knew what was going on. And we have the Laundries. If this is Brian, it doesn't matter at this point what happened. It matters that another life is gone. And neither one of them are coming back. And it could have been over something so fucking stupid. But I know the protesters are going to go at them like crazy, because now is the time that they're going to snap, when they feel like they've lost everything. Yeah, there's possible human remains. No, there's partial human remains. Now, they're not coming out and saying it's Brian.
Along those lines, but if it's the FBI talking, it's going to be very basic. It's going to be 1 or 2 paragraphs. At the most, and I don't think at this point they're not going to offer any speculation for how long the remains were there, because they
we'll find out here in less than an hour.
There's that, right? There could be a note. where we know exactly how long they've been there, but I'm going to say we're not going to know new or old for a while. We are going to have a suspicion of who it is.
I think people just need to.
The FBI, I'm sure if they're releasing it, they have more than a suspicion. I mean, obviously, did he have his wallet with him? We would think he did, right? Would you bring your wallet? If you're in the woods?
Without any credit cards or debit cards in them, I mean, I would bring them.
I don't know.
But then again, that would just be to carry cash. And
The fact that the FBI is going to be doing.
What does it look like? It's gruesome to imagine, but so yeah, it's a really good
A
question.
news conference here soon pretty much indicates that they know who it is, and I would be very, very, very shocked if it turns out that it's something else. And hey, Kevin, welcome.
to ask this question, and it's not a question that we can answer, but it's a question that is on my mind. Did they search this area in September when the water was considerable?
I also want to say thank you to Greg and Nikki for keeping me updated while I was out earlier.
Were they within 10 feet, 100 feet of this spot, and they had no idea what they were actually on or near because of the water?
Right. We know they have the boats.
I just, you know,
Swamp boats, whatever you call them.
Teams, they had so
I'm really shocked that this is how it's going to end.
It's interesting that it's water's involved and they had dive teams, which makes you wonder, did they know something earlier about Ryan that made them think to
Does anybody even know what life is like
area? Didn't we
post
hear from Allison
laundry?
that the area, did we hear from police the area is 75% water?
Oh, hey, Jameson.
I think it was 75% water at the time.
Right. And that was a month ago, right?
When we had a very wet September. We did.
But again, 25,000 acres in Carlton Reserve, only 116 in this location. So, do we know they did search this area? We don't. This is
I truly don't believe that protesters should continue anymore. I think that, you know, but they're fired up, right? Because they're all over there in that corner, right beside Walt's head. There's with media and everything else, they're there until that body comes out or the part of the body or whatever they got going on in there. They are there. And you know damn well where they're heading after this is done.
right, and I don't think dogs are as effective if the
Like,
something is in
I don't know, you know, the parents may have already come to terms with this. Maybe they knew Brian was going to go and do something to himself and wasn't going to live. But the fact of the matter is that if this is him, they have concrete evidence saying he is no longer alive. They still lost a child. And whether right or wrong or good or bad or whatever, they're people. And people have to understand they're people.
Entirely possible that the remains have been there for some time. And again, I point out that Mother Nature had a significant role here. The water's coming down to a point that where you're not stepping even in mud. It's very dry on the ground there at the Carlton Reserve in Amayakahatchee, and it exposes what was underneath the surface of the water out of view for the officers and the teams that were searching Mayaka.
Jamie, do we know? I just got this question. It's a great question. My answer was I hope so, and also we'd better. Do we know that we are going to have
I just don't know.
conference live? Do we have that capability? Do you know? I was going to ask our assignment desk just since we're fluid here because I think it's a.
Oh, thanks, Nikki. Nikki. I was answering your private one, but thank you. I'll put the volume back up on this.
Available to the press, but it's worth noting. Now we got time. It's 50 minutes away. There hasn't been a makeshift podium set up. There hasn't been an area where what media, or there is. Oh no, I'm sorry. She was responding to somebody else. What you'll see is the media come together. Even photographers with different networks and different media affiliates, and what they will do is somebody will provide a makeshift stand or podium, and
A
that's
light
where
stand a lot of times.
Yep, and what
duct
that will
tape.
do, Yes, the duct tape is key. And what they will
Mics
do.
are wrapped on duct tape.
Walt and I have been at these press conferences, and you'll see the media kind of come together because they want to. It's really actually just because they want to have the best mic placement. You know, when you'll see a press conference at an area like this, and you'll see it looks like there's I don't know, 50 to 60 microphones all like piled onto one spot, and you're thinking, why don't they just use one microphone? It's because they don't have the technological capability to do one microphone.
Right.
It's all of these microphones together, and that area is likely being formed right now. But I'll tell you what, there's got to be a media liaison there at the scene to organize this press conference and say it's going to be had here.
The news release was written by the Florida contact to the FBI.
FBI Tampa, right?
Yeah, FBI Tampa. Keep in mind, the lead investigators here are the Denver office of the FBI, and that's who we have been contacting for information leading up to these days, is the Denver office of the FBI. And that's where the tweet that said they had found items of interest in the Laundrie case, that came from the Denver FBI. And keep this in mind as well, the FBI has not confirmed anything about remains. That is from a source to NBC News and Pete Williams. So we don't know what we're going to get at 4:30. We can only sort of assume what we'll get. But again, as JB pointed out, it's been a crazy story with a lot of twists and turns. Very few items on that timeline. If we think back just 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, I got to do the math. 6 weeks ago, we didn't even know who Gabby Petito was. A few people did because they were following her blog, right?
Yep.
We didn't know these names, and now they've been part of these thoughts and all these developments. For a while, it was a development a day, and it slowed down to a crawl over the weekend, where there weren't many stories at all. There were very few, even nationally, there were very few media stories. But the Laundrie case, it had been probably the slowest weekend, right, since the case broke. And now we have this a mere 3 days later.
There were people that, were chiming in saying this case is officially a cold case, and it's time to, and I received a lot of messages from people saying, JB, it's time to start paying attention to other missing person cases. And believe me, now let's make this clear, I serve the Tampa Bay area, and that's my coverage area, and that's what I'm told and directed and assigned to focus on. And believe me, we're ready to jump on any missing persons case. But that's not new for us. That's the thing. I want to make this clear. We've been covering missing persons cases all the time. This one just captured the public attention, captured Twitter sphere and social media in a way that few ever have, if any ever have. This was the missing person case that has received the most attention that I've ever seen in modern day journalism. I've never seen anything
doubt.
like
And
it.
I think when you talk about modern day journalism, it is a very visual medium now. Newspapers are dying.
Yes.
Newspapers everywhere are dying. They're laying people off. Organizations like this are growing, and it's all based on pictures. TikTok is pictures. Twitter is pictures.
Instagram,
and
pictures.
right. And people have criticized us. And by the way, we're big boys and we can take it. And I think the criticism is deserved. Do we cover every single missing person case? Not necessarily. There's criteria for us, right? We do not generally handle certain missing person cases. But in this case, if I'm telling you, this case had the visual element right away. We saw these people in 3 dimensions talking, smiling together. This very telegenic couple that seemed so happy. And then we also have, again, modern technology, the body cam video from the. Am I gonna get? God, those dates are in my mind. What day? What date was the body cam? August. Oh boy. Anyway, the body camera video.
I'm bringing up my timeline just because
so
I don't want to misspeak. I've misspoke in the past.
The body camera video where we see this guy that became the person of interest and the suspect in the credit card case. That just doesn't happen. We have surveillance video of suspects before, but I bring up Whitey Bulger again. We had 1 or 2 black and white pictures of him, and he was able to elude police for decades. In this case, we have Ryan Petito, 3-dimensional, talking to police. We have Gabby Petito crying lying to police. So all of those elements combine with bringing the entire world focusing. We've had viewers from all over the place focusing on this case because of that, and that's why it has become so interesting, not only with us in our media, but also in the media that the general public has: Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and the speculation has been it's been spectacular to me to watch, just as a sort of almost like a journalism class, to see how big a story like this became because of the way media has expanded in recent years and decades.
This is going to change the conversation with missing persons in the United States. I've, again, had conversations with Gabby's family. They are committed to change, and not even just change, but wanting to just prevent future tragedy from occurring, doing everything that they can to ensure that the Gabby Petito Foundation is used for good, and to prevent other stories from Gabby Petito ending in death and destruction of a family. So I think that there's a conversation, to be had with, and I think it starts with Gabby Petito's family, and others are going to join in on that conversation. And I'm very curious to see exactly how policymakers in this country, and I've heard some different ideas and concepts get brought forward, and some very interesting ideas as to how to prevent something like this in the future. They're fascinating conversations. I look forward to covering them and being even part of those conversations if people ask, from the media's perspective. But that's a conversation now that is absolutely on the fast track to ensure that there's thousands of families out there who don't have information on what happened to their loved one, and they deserve that information, and they deserve exposure, and they deserve people in the media covering that particular case. Not to say that there's an overwhelming amount of missing person cases that don't receive media attention, but there's a conversation to be had, and I'm very much looking forward to where it goes from here.
And there, I will also say that the other part of this is also the domestic violence conversation, because we know this is a case of domestic violence. We know a strangulation is, that it doesn't necessarily have to be domestic violence if she did not know the suspect, but we do know that this was a couple that had some issues, and we saw those, and that conversation's important. You talk about prevention. Sure, we can talk about preventing missing persons cases or finding people faster. That's great, and money helps, and that foundation will help. But also the awareness of how to help a friend who may be dealing with a bad relationship is important too, and I think that's another piece of this.
I look forward to finding out, like the rest of the world, what's going to happen here at 4:30. Okay, so let me explain. And so some commenters used hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyWalt and brought this to my attention. I didn't get a chance to animate it here on screen, but I can tell you that there is now, like clockwork, right as I uttered it, I think about 45 minutes ago, a temporary flight restriction, a TFR, has been issued. That is the FBI working in tandem with the FAA to establish a TFR over this area. There is no longer going to be aerial coverage of the area where the tent was sent up here, as you're seeing from Eagle 8 HD, and where the law enforcement presence is most intense.
Video, correct?
I'm sorry? This is file. Yes, this was from earlier.
File?
This is looping back from about approximately... I've lost track of how long have we been on stream here? We've been on stream for 4 hours and 13 minutes. No commercial breaks. 4 hours, 13 minutes straight here, with the one break where Eagle 8 HD was getting back up in the air. Quite literally a multi-hour effort here as far as our stream, and we're not going anywhere. We're staying live with you on WFLA now all the way through till we might take a brief break at 4:30. Excuse me, let me not add 4:30. Before 4:30 to reset for our audience. I think on Facebook, we're going to be resetting for our audience one more time. Facebook streaming is different from YouTube streaming. So we are going to be stepping away at, I believe, somewhere in the 4:30, or excuse me, the 4 o'clock half hour before 4:30. But believe me, we're going to be live across all platforms for this again. 4:30 Eastern, FBI press conference on the Laundrie search. Well, what are you expecting as far as information? What are you expecting to learn at 4:30? Do you have any expectations whatsoever, or are you a blank slate?
I'm a blank slate. I find it hard to believe it won't be what we think it's going to be. I don't like to speculate, even in a forum like this. I mean, because you don't, again, and you made a great point about the body that was found.
Glad it was negative.
I'm going to say 4 to 5 weeks ago.
I assume this is full blast, right?
It was probably
hard to hear.
The week after the first search. It was probably, I think it was the day after the FBI searched the Laundrie's home on the 20th. Which was a week after Nicole Schmidt came forward and a very emotional news conference asking for help to find her daughter, not realizing at the time her daughter had already been the victim of homicide. So you think about that point and how quickly we knew that was not Brian Laundrie. And now you think of this, you compare it to this, and we have a full force of FBI agents. We have a tweet from the FBI in a news conference.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my suspicion is this is going to be exactly what we think it is, and that it'll be 2 or 3 sentences with no questions, and that we will learn that who this is, they believe this is. I do not believe there will be a manner of death declaration, although pretty quickly, was it the next day? Was it the day of when we knew it was Gabby Petito? Did we know the next day manner of death, or was that?
It was soon thereafter. Okay. It was around. It didn't take very long.
Knowing a manner of death is going to be maybe even more difficult here. I think it's possible we may hear something along the lines of how long they believe that body was there. But other than that, the details are going to be slow to come out because, again, it's the FBI, and the FBI likes to get all their ducks in a row before they come to the media. I respect that, even if it does delay what we do in telling a particular story. But I do absolutely 100% respect how detailed an investigation like this has to be, even if this is the final part of the investigation. Because if this is Brian Laundrie, there's not going to be a trial, and we don't even know if there's going to be a news release of anything of what they suspect. We know that if it's documented, those affidavits should become public at some point, and we'll learn more. But at this point, I expect a brief news conference. What about you? What do you expect?
I expect a brief news conference, and I expect something along the lines of what we know. That the FBI has discovered partial human remains. I expect that they will say that they cannot confirm the identity of those remains at this time until a forensic examination is completed. I think that we'll learn a little bit more about the fact that the remains were found in the area of belongings that Brian Laundrie, that were items that were said to belong to Brian Laundrie, and that they can't take any additional questions at this time. But I always say, with this story, it's been about the unexpected. Just has a way of just coming out of nowhere and completely blindsiding everybody. And I guess you could say that it's about that we are owed something that isn't out of left field, that it isn't going to be entirely unexpected of a press conference. But there have just been so many unexpected twists and turns in this case that I quite literally don't have any idea of what to expect, but that's what my brain goes in thinking, that we're going to find out that the remains have been that they have found partial remains, and that it is going to be connected to the belongings that were discovered here at the Carlton Reserve.
So if those belongings, I believe that that they could very well tell us who they think those belongings belong to, if you will. And if they are connected to this, that would be the first items found after roughly 5 weeks of searching. Is that accurate?
Say that one more time.
The first items found out there, right?
Oh yeah, no, there hasn't been.
Has been nothing found. Fascinating.
Well, hold on though. There's the chance that they found something, and they just didn't announce it to the media.
Very possible.
And that has been speculation for weeks. People saying, "Oh my God, did they find something?" And that's the reason that they're searching endlessly here. But I'd be very curious to know. There were, when I tell you, Walt, that I got so many angry messages that weren't necessarily directed at me, but were sent to me. Viewers that were angry that their taxpayer dollar was being used at a search that the viewer was so certain that Brian wasn't here, that he was chilling on a beach. We had questions about a yacht recently. All of these wild theories out there. And people saying, could he be on a beach in Mexico, kicking up his feet on a yacht and hanging out? Could he be on the Appalachian Trail? Could he have made it all the way to Canada? All of these, and there were people that were 100% certain.
100%.
100% certain that he wasn't
he's
here.
He's not there. He's not there. That's all we heard. And then you're made to feel, it's sort of along the lines, although it turned out to be true, when we would not say it was Gabby Petito's debit card, because we didn't know it was Gabby Petito's debit card.
Until, of course, the Dr. Phil interview,
That's
and then
right. Then we're calling it Gabby Petito's credit card. We go with what the law enforcement tells us. And, there's criticism of the media that's well deserved, but we stick to, we wait for those types of things. And in this case, again, we kept covering it because I fully believed law enforcement had reason to believe that there was a reason to keep that search going. And then, but ironically, when they finally slowed it down to a crawl, right, the last 2 days, it's just interesting that today, it could be the day that final piece is sort of revealed. Not necessarily the final piece, but one of the final pieces.
Go back to any stream that we have done in recent weeks, and people asking, JB, is he in Mexico? JB is in Canada. Why are they searching the reserve? Why are there been potentially millions of dollars or $1 million+ dollars, whatever the amount will end up being, the bill for the search? Why has there been so much taxpayer money committed to searching here when clearly people are saying they're not finding anything? Why are they committed to the search here? And I'm on record saying over and over and over again, you have to have a certain level of confidence, a high level of confidence with the FBI, because they likely have information that the public doesn't have that leads them to be committing that much attention and be putting that many resources here at the Carlton Reserve. And here we are. So I'd be very curious to hear from those people that would email me or not even email me, but direct message me on my Instagram or on Facebook, people that were just so passionately convinced that he wasn't here, and and I said, no, you have to listen. There's a process, and there's a reason that they're looking here, and I would just be very curious to what those people are saying today.
And I'm a cost guy. I think government spends too much money, or they don't spend it efficiently.
That's
I've
kind of your
many
thing.
Stories, what?
That's kind of your thing.
Well, it is, and I've always, I am privately, and I am as a taxpayer, and I am as a journalist, and I like those stories are important because that's our money. That's our money that's being spent. So I get those questions. However, there was an explanation about this search early on, and it kind of makes a lot of sense that the officers out there were on their regular shift, and that that it may not involve as much overtime as people think, that the food was donated in many of the cases, and keep this in mind. These officers, the FBI, I mean, they're paid to do this. So is that a cost? I don't know if that's really a cost. Does it mean other cases got put on the back burner? Yes, probably, more than likely. But I'm not sure in this case, in a case like this, if the cost was ever a concern, I guess, unless they didn't find Brian Laundrie out there. But even then, you have to eliminate possibilities. It is criminal science, right? Science, you eliminate this so you can focus on something else. That's what police do, and that's what they did here. And even though it did take a long time, and will eventually have a price tag, and people will perhaps complain about it, if they end up finding the body of Brian Laundrie here, that is what we pay them to do, and I would find it hard to complain about that particular cost, even though that is what I do, is look for misspent money. So
that's your beat here on
this
on
is
News
a great
Channel
shot.
8.
I know it's filed, but it's a great shot of
it's hours.
the officers.
It's a couple of hours old here.
But still, they're right near the tent. You can see where they're looking.
It's the best vantage point that we have had, peeking
really good,
through these
actually,
trees.
Yeah.
And so let me explain the strategy here, folks. YouTube, again, this is rinse and repeat. YouTube, we're not going anywhere. YouTube, we're going to be live with the on stream. We're going to take a 5-minute break here in about 10 minutes. I want to say in about 10 minutes. We're going to take a 5-minute break. just a step away to reset here. An opportunity to drink some water, use the facilities, do what we have to do here, because we have been streaming nonstop without commercial break now for, I think, 4.5 hours. Let's get an update count. We've been streaming now for 4 hours and 24 minutes. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We are going to be ending the Facebook stream. Facebook, and I have a better idea now as far as how to describe this for our audience, but Facebook is more intermittent streaming, while YouTube is more long-form streaming, if that makes sense. So we end the Facebook stream, but we relaunch a new Facebook stream, and we'll have, of course, full coverage both before and after the FBI press conference at 4:30 Eastern time. Walt, I want to bring this up here at the end of this Facebook stream because we did have a question and a comment on this earlier, and it pertains to a psychic that got a hold of you last month. And that, when I tell you that created quite a stir on social media, that was a pretty significant stir on social media because you had shared information about a psychic that had gotten a hold of you and had said that they were going to accurately predict the date that Brian Laundrie was found. So why don't you share?
And I reached out to her this weekend. And by the way, investigators use psychics. I have people roll their eyes when I bring up this story, but I'm sorry. It's something that has been used by investigators, and did they use it here? I don't know. But this woman on the 21st of September told me it would be 28 days from then when they would find Brian Laundrie. So at first, if you count the 21st, that meant Monday. But as my wife pointed out, wait a minute, day one is actually the 22nd of September. That means 28 days was yesterday. And the body was found today on day 29. Does it make you believe in the psychic? I don't know. I will tell you this. The psychic predicted also that Brian Laundrie would be alive. That's not accurate. Well, we don't know. Let me rephrase that. We don't think that that's going to be accurate. And also predicted that, and this is sort of, and I'm as skeptical as the next guy, but this end would be found, she did say, near water. Near the banks is how she put it.
So really, in the end, it turned out to be water ended up and the water was a big role in this, just not in the way that was originally thought to be.
And
that
again,
water is
receded.
receding.
It's the end. We don't know if the end, but if it is the end, then that particular psychic was pretty close. It gave me an exact day, not a round number. So I don't know. It's interesting, very interesting. I think it's something that people have been reaching out to me. What day did she say? What day did she say? And I did reach out to her on over the weekend, and she said, I still see that happening. But again, she thought he'd be alive. And we don't know that he's not at this point. We do not know anything. We'll find out more at 4:30. We'll find out more in 27 minutes. It was it's a 2 to 3 week thing that you would have had to have something to clean the water. You need the water, you need food. We do know something that he had some skills, but we don't know how great the skills were. So, yeah, for all we know, the time of death will be 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the reason the remains were not found was because of the water, and the water has receded, dried up. But again, we don't know anything about this other than from the FBI that items of interest were found. And for all we know at 4:30, that's all they're going to elaborate on. We will see, we will hear in 25 minutes.
Live on WFLA Now, before and after the press conference here. I haven't seen a podium come together, but I will.
Do you have a live pick over there?
I do. Let's just hit some buttons here on the touch screen, and we can make that magic happen. Here. So, nope, look at that. Right.
Yeah, see, there's
the
mic stand.
That's the mic stand that we were talking about. This is how now media comes together.
There's a little plastic. This is new. I haven't seen this anyplace else. It's a little piece of plexiglass or PVC. It's got little holes in it, and it'll fit multiple microphones. I've seen this only here in Florida. I think I was told, I think a photographer invented it. Somebody told me that. But yeah, there you go. You have, how many mics you have? I think you can fit 16. So there you have it.
There will be some competition for getting a prominent spot, and it's this is a little behind the scenes of what goes on before the mass audience press conference gets underway. So we'll be live here, everybody, on WFLA Now but really before 4:30, and we're not going anywhere. We're staying live on WFLA.com. The WFLA app. We're staying live on YouTube. To our YouTube audience, hello there. Thanks for spending time with us this Wednesday afternoon. We really appreciate you joining us. I'll just kind of give a shout out, even though that there are landmines as far as YouTube names. I'll just give some comment, some shout outs to some users here specifically on YouTube, just to say hello to our YouTube audience. Cynthia May is joining us. Philip Smith. Let's see here. Dimples. Yeah, the names on YouTube are quite different than the ones you would find on Facebook. Let's see here. Sam Balti. They're just coming in so fast. Alice Boyce. Mark Jones. Michael Marsh. Hello to our YouTube audience. And then to our Facebook audience, give some just hello to our Facebook Live audience. Tom, Krista, Rebecca Page, Rebecca Page, Donna Cano, Nancy Rivera, to everybody watching. We appreciate you joining us here, everybody, on WFLA Now. How this is going to work: we are going to take a momentary break, just step away, so that Walt and I can grab a drink.
Well, holy shit, eh? Oh my God, Marissa's right there. You can see her. Sitting in a chair over in the corner. So is Andra. Jonathan Lee Riches. White Boy Lockdown. They're all over there. It just sucks none of them can go live because there's no Wi-Fi out there. Oh, we got movement from the protesters. Oh, I know. I agree, Nikki. Totally. Probably like, oh, we broke this case wide open. Right. I'm sorry, I'm eating. Oh, I guarantee they're going to go back. They still want answers. I don't know. If this turns out to be Brian and they continue to protest and everything like that, it just shows what kind of bullies they are. But they had to have known they were coming to this, Nikki. I mean, maybe not in this manner, but... Mind you, none of us really know the manner. I assume, though, he had... critters got to him, I assume. That's why he's partially there. But exactly, Greg. That's what I'm saying. I mean, come on now. At the end of the day, this is still people. They are still people. They are still grieving the loss of their son. It doesn't matter what the hell he did. That's their son. I mean, I'm saying it doesn't matter at that point to them what he did. It's still their son. They still have the right, as everybody does, to grieve the loss of their child. And they shouldn't have the media. They shouldn't have any of that stuff in their faces. I think that, Greg, was the goodbye party. See you later. Adios, I'm out. I don't think I'm coming back alive. I figured he was going out one of two ways. That he was already dead, or he would have been found alive, but resisted arrest or something, and they would have shot him. That's kind of where I thought it was going to go. I really thought he was alive, though. Oh, we got talking back.
Area and the shot is very Walt. It is.
It's not a great signal.
It's not a great signal, but
It looks pretty
we
good,
are
though.
getting up our satellite feed. Let's break into. Let's punch up our satellite feed here.
That's
Significantly better. Significantly better. So, 4:30 Eastern.
Sadly, Gabby's family deserves more
The FBI press conference on the Laundrie
than this.
search efforts.
They deserve the
We'll have
answers.
that for you coming up here on WFLA Now.
But what I'm saying is that they obviously didn't want death for their child, right? So why wouldn't they have gone on the news? And why didn't they beg him to turn himself in? Or at least it would have given him life. Not just, I don't know, you know, I'm over it. I just don't agree. I don't agree, man. I don't agree with the shenanigans that's been going on. I mean, these protesters are really pissing me off. Okay, well that, you know, wouldn't surprise me. I find it weird they found him after they reopened it. Like, what the fuck happened there? Oh. Oh, honey, I think we already knew he was a dirty one. I don't even understand how a state lawyer can even have jurisdiction. Jameson! In defending or advising something in such a high-profile situation. Or at least left the phones behind so they can trace them. At least that way they'd know the steps. The last steps Gabby did. And they went to the bank yesterday too, Greg. And FedEx. Oh, the good thing is at least they don't have the protesters in the shot. Oh, I never even thought of that. You know, sometimes McDonald's makes good burgers. Sometimes. Well, I mean, they must have some solid evidence going on there, because they didn't waste no time calling this press conference. Wait. There was a backpack they found of his, apparently. But I thought the parents said that he didn't take anything with him. Unless I'm wrong. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I know. I've had some thoughts that'll make me go there too, Greg. Oh, did they say he took a second gear? Because I thought he left everything at home, which was, I thought, weird. You know, there's just been a lot happening in this case, you know? Kind of from the get-go. Oh, shabammy, here we go. Well, maybe that's where he was, and they moved his remains to the reserve.
Moments away from answers. The FBI calling a press conference after.
I'm nervous, guys. I'm
human
nervous.
remains reportedly found here at the Carlton Reserve in an area previously underwater and near a backpack that reportedly had items in it that might have belonged to Brian Laundrie. We're about to find out from the FBI themselves what has transpired here today in Florida. Hey there, everybody. JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now.
Done deal.
completely honed in here on the makeshift podium that has been set up at Myakkahatchee, right outside where so many different law enforcement agencies have gathered for the discovery, according to NBC News.
I agree,
and others
Nikki,
that
but
are
I don't think
reporting
they'd be
this now,
making such a big
the
stink if it
discovery
wasn't.
of partial human remains.
Regular
what appears to be
folk
partial
don't get
human
this kind of
remains
attention.
At Myakkahatchee, that is the area where the silver Ford Mustang convertible of Brian Laundrie was discovered in September. The citation that was put on that vehicle that was right here on Reisterstown Road in our neck of the woods here in the Tampa Bay area in rural Sarasota County. Let's go here live.
Wait, did he? Oh my God! So basically, what they're saying is he'd probably. Oh boy, they could have had this all solved already. Like, had they just looked closer in the water.
This press conference.
Well, allegedly, it might be him right now. We'll know very soon. I think it's him.
Watching and getting updates from us on WFLA and other media outlets as well.
Here's what we know from the FBI.
I just feel bad for Gabby's family now because they're sitting there going like, what the fuck?
This is from the FBI tweet. Items of interest were located.
Unless the parents know and say something, what the hell?
Important timeline there. Found this morning around the time perhaps that the Laundries were there, according to their attorney Stephen Bertolino.
I just find that weird. They found him. Like, I mean, come on. Just weirdly when the parents were there. Come on, some of it's weird, right?
Media alert, FBI Tampa.
It's not just me.
Now keep in mind, it's FBI Denver that has led this investigation. And these tweets, by the way, are coming from FBI Denver, but FBI Tampa will brief the media at 4:30 concerning today's developments in the search for Brian Laundrie at the entrance of Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park there in Northport, Florida. So that's what we know, and we expect to know more at 4:30. We also know that backpack, we believe, according to NBC, was found near those human remains. We do not know what the remains, how much, the amount of these remains. We do not know that.
We don't really know anything about the remains whatsoever other than senior law enforcement officials, sources within senior, or sources that are senior law enforcement officials informing to members of the media that partial human remains, or what appears to be partial human remains, were found in an area that was previously underwater. And that is a huge component here to this story because we don't know how long the remains have been here. But remember back to September, how wet this area was. I mean, we're talking in some areas knee-deep, waist-deep in water.
Water moccasins and copperheads and alligators, all that stuff.
A tremendous amount of wildlife here at the reserve. It's not all that visible, but we've, gators, you'll find deer, you'll find snakes, you'll find coyotes, panthers, a lot of different wildlife here at the Carlton Reserve, Myakkahatchee, the very rural, vast area of Sarasota County. But we'll go back here live full screen. Here's how this is going to work. The time now, 4:28 Eastern. We don't know how if the FBI is going to be on time here, but of course we're staying here with you live on WFLA now. We're going to wait for the FBI to step up to the podium here, and immediately after the
I don't think Gabby's was
over,
either.
Walt and I are here with you live to break down what we have learned. We're going to take your hashtag HJB, hashtag HeyWalt questions, because we're going to learn a good amount here, or at least we can only hope that we're going to be provided with some answers, Walt, and there's going to be tons of questions that are going to get asked in the aftermath of this press conference.
Will they answer any of the questions? We don't know.
I think so. They said, Queen, that they searched that whole area, but it was underwater.
And then
they might have missed
on
something.
and keep in mind, again,
Obviously.
this is the FBI office out of Tampa, not the lead FBI office out of Denver, which obviously would be the closest office to where the body was found in Wyoming 50 days ago. The body was found on the 19th. So it's been about 40 days, but it was about 50 days ago when, according to various documents, we can narrow down that Gabby Petito was allegedly killed. The victim of homicide, according to the FBI, the victim of strangulation, according to the medical. I
just want to know how much fault the parents can take now if they still had something to do with it. They still can get charged with helping him, no? Regardless if he's here or not, they still broke the law.
Here with you live, and we're going to find out here alongside the rest of the world what has transpired today, what discovery has been made, And even though we're going to find out more, we are not going to find out everything, Walt, that the FBI knows. They're going to keep some information, perhaps most information.
Okay, I'm going to change
vest.
the title of this.
They have called this press conference.
I don't
for a
like doing
very
that, but
specific reason, and
you
we're
know
about to
what?
find out that
It's the
is.
same
And,
stream
keep
as
in
when it
mind,
started, and
they're
I'm
gonna
sure
keep
lots of
information
people
close to
have
the
done
vest.
it.
It is very possible.
I shall just add
that
to
they
it.
do not
What I'll do is,
know as much as we might think they know. This is not a television show. This is real life. Perhaps the remains were discovered this morning. It's now been only 5 hours since they've had these remains. So what do they know? They may not know a whole lot. They may be telling us very basic information because that is all they have. Obviously, no forensic study on these remains. We do know when Gabby Petito's remains were found, it was, I believe, another day or so. That was on the 19th that the news conference was held, that the remains were found, and they identified them as Gabby Petito, but we did not find out the manner of death until, I believe, a day or so later. So patience with the investigators at this point. And the big question is, does this close this case? Is this Brian Laundrie? And do we now have a closed case where we have a
Bob asked later if I did that.
but
No, I didn't do it.
live
Okay?
defendant to prosecute?
And let's
Find that out.
begin right there. That is the big question. The partial human remains discovered today at the Carlton Reserve.
Oh,
here
I
in
think they
Miami.
realize there's a lot they should have and
Is that
could have
Brian
done
Laundrie?
that they didn't do
Is
because they're idiots.
That Brian Laundrie. So many people, of course, have been on the lookout for Brian Laundrie. There have been sightings. Here comes the FBI. We're back here with you live on WFO Now immediately after
All right.
the press conference.
I'm gonna mute.
Good afternoon, Josh Taylor with the Northport Police Department. Thank you for your continued diligence on this story, and thanks for your patience. As you know, the Northport Police Department has worked collaboratively with the FBI throughout this investigation. Special Agent Michael McPherson is going to make a prepared statement. There's not going to be any questions today, but hopefully it answers some of them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael McPherson. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI Tampa Division. As you're aware, the FBI and the Northport Police Department and our state and local law enforcement partners have been searching the area of the Carlton Reserve for Brian Laundrie, a person of interest in the murder of Gabby Petito. Earlier today, investigators found what appears to be human remains, along with personal items such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie. These items were found in an area that up until recently had been underwater. Our evidence response team is on scene using all available forensic resources to process the area. It's likely the team will be on scene for several days. I know you have a lot of questions, but we don't have all the answers yet. We are working diligently to get those answers for you. We are grateful for the dedication and professionalism of the Northport Police Department, along with our partners from the state and local agencies. Complex investigations such as this cannot be accomplished by one agency alone, but there are just too many agencies to name them all here today. Portions of the Myakkahatchee Creek Environment Park and Carlton Reserve will remain closed to the public until further notice. This is an active and ongoing investigation, so we ask the public to maintain distance from any law enforcement personnel, equipment, vehicles, and other related activity for the safety of the public and to protect the integrity of our work. We have no additional comment related to today's activities. Our FBI Denver office is the lead investigative agency, and all future inquiries should be directed to them. We appreciate the tremendous support from the public and continue to ask for your assistance in bringing this investigation to close. Thank you.
Was the backpack found near the body? Justice for Gabby! 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 Justice for Gabby!
Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
You hear the calls. Justice for Gabby. after the FBI announces information that we have been receiving over the last several hours. Partial human remains discovered here today at the Carlton Reserve near a backpack and a notebook. A backpack and a notebook that might belong to Brian Laundrie, a scene that is now going to take several days for them to comb through. An evidence response team with the FBI and other law enforcement agencies here at the scene in Florida. Hey folks, JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. Here again, you saw that there were folks there on lawn chairs. Yes, lawn chairs that have, the folks that have been outside of the Carlton Reserve, or really outside of Myakkahatchee Wall, just goes to show how many people have been.
Well, they pretty much said without saying that it was him.
And we were talking about it right before the press conference began. The answer that we wanted, as far as the question that was hopefully going to be asked, and we didn't get an opportunity here to ask any questions, was, is this Brian Laundrie? We did not learn that here today.
We did not, and I would like to hear the sound again. Did he say might? He worded it, it seemed, I would say oddly, did he say might have belonged to Brian Laundrie? Or did he say, he might have gone a step farther than that it was, but he did say notebook, he did say backpack. Look, the notebook, by the way, if it's Brian Laundrie's, is fascinating, right? Because what could we learn from that?
Yeah, but it's waterlogged.
What will be released from that notebook by the FBI? But he also pointed out, and we've said this, you and I have both said this, we've all said this, very complicated investigation involving multiple jurisdictions and multiple agencies that are trying to coordinate and figure out these answers. He also was somewhat apologetic to the public.
Hold on a second, I have another feed here. I want to hit the touch screen and bring up just a couple different feeds here. There, just to show everybody here. And take a look here, yet another shot that we have here now going across the front area of the Carlton Reserve. You can see that there's some
Give them a few minutes and see where those protesters are going to end up. And they're going to... Fuck.
There isn't much audio in this feed. I just punched it up. So, again, just showing...
Oh, so instead they're going to talk to the law enforcement. The protesters. Where's Marissa? Look at me. I don't know. I hate people who think they're something when they're nothing. Anybody can stand at a house and yell at it. That doesn't make you somebody.
And it might be audio that, again, we don't know what kind of language is being used.
You know, I was for all this protesting thing. I was, honestly. Until I learned about that Andrew. And if that's true, which I can't see why it would be fake,
Chanting justice for Gavin.
I don't understand how some of these people, including JB, condone it.
Kind of odd, I think. I get the frustration, but you're chanting to the investigators.
Oh, there's on her damaged goods or whatever her name is.
What they have.
You gotta check all their
is say it's Brian Laundrie.
YouTube. They get lots of footage from.
That would be worse than us doing that.
I want to clarify. I believe that we can have it now that they did say the backpack and other items. The backpack and the notebook are items that belong to Brian Laundrie. And this is now consistent now with Stephen Bertolino's comments earlier on today that Chris and Roberta Laundrie were there at the reserve this morning. That's Brian Laundrie's parents participating in the search. With the Carlton Reserve being open, with Myakkahatchee being open, anyone can go. And Chris and Roberta Laundrie went to an area.
About Andrew?
Was known to have been in the past. They go to this area.
Apparently, she has charges of battery and strangulation, and
something that wasn't.
She's apparently a big domestic violence person, but the abuser. Allegedly.
Yeah, and he did not say whether they had searched there before.
And he said they found articles, and now we know more details about those articles.
And it would be interesting to know if they.
Yeah, the little short blonde
We
one?
don't know that it is at the entrance.
Not the bigger blonde one. That's Molly Golightly. She has her own YouTube channel. They all have their own YouTube channels. Except for Andra. I don't think she does. But she has a Twitter, I'm sure. Same with that Jonathan Lee Riches. He has a Twitter.
He said 10 is in the reserve north of Myakkahatchee. So.
Oh, yeah, we got some stuff to talk about on her case, too.
The two pieces of property sort of join each other. Myakahatchee is 160 acres. The reserve is 25,000. So it's right there where those two areas meet. And that white tent, according to Jim Hockett, investigative photographer Jim Hockett, is the white tent is in the reserve right near Myakahatchee River area.
I'm going to see if we can get an update on where Eagle 8 HD is. Or no, sorry, wait, no, I'm just now remembering. Okay, so Eagle 8
How many of these are
HD
protesters leaving to rush over to the laundry house?
Hit that button here as far as going to our news chopper. Can't. Temporary flight restriction.
And you know they know.
And we can't fly over Myakahatchee right now, so news choppers. And I would imagine that CFR is going to be up for days because this is going to take days to comb through this scene. And forensics and the medical examiner's office and everyone going through this scene here to be textbook as far as their approach to handling what they have discovered at the Carlton Reserve. It is going
Wait,
to
what did I say?
It's going to be behind. It's going to be behind.
It wasn't that funny, was it?
You know what I mean? It's not going to be in view of the public because of the temporary flight restriction. And we can't get any cameras in.
Oh, but the protesters, yeah.
Oh,
come on, Nikki. You know, come on. You know how it's going to play out?
Yes, this folks know this front door quite well. This is the home in Northport.
This is so crazy. So crazy. Like I said, I didn't expect this to happen, but... exactly. Leave it to the law now. Oh, here we are looking at the laundry house. Okay.
Well, they are parents who, based on what we have learned at this stage, might have lost a child.
Exactly.
We do not know whether or not those remains, Michael McPherson, the FBI agent who briefed the media, did not answer whether or not those remains are in fact Brian Laundrie's remains. They'll have to, of course,
There you go, Nikki. Send me the footage. I'll put it live.
But inside this home right now are two parents who have, just like Joe Petito and just like...
Oh, they got their blinds open in the bedroom or whatever room that is. They're probably watching out there. Those little spies. Okay, so I really thought so too, Queen. Honestly, I thought he was still alive. I actually cried a little bit when they were doing that conference. Just for the simple fact that it ended the way it did. That there's still no answers. And what? I don't know how to say it, but people...
what the Petito and Schmidt families experienced and what the Laundrie family experienced. They went through completely different experiences. But if this is Brian Laundrie, they are two parents now, and for Gabby's family, it's a 4 co-parenting unit with Tara and Jim in mind. It's 2 families now that are going through tremendous loss and are heartbroken over what has transpired over the last couple of months. You have to remember, July 2nd, while they're embarking on a cross-country road trip, they're leaving together, seemingly in love, going across the country, experiencing the world, and here we are now, it's October 20th, and we find these partial human remains, and it's a story of tragedy. No matter how we got to this destination, the destination and the conclusion here, this is a tragic story. And
definitely, and to be separated like that if they were, that's crazy.
Are we any closer to finding out if there's going to be justice for Gabby Petito? I'd be very curious what our audience has to say about that.
You know, somebody on Twitter contacted me and just pointed out, it is there if it's Brian's. Well, we know it's Brian's. If there are writings in there, will it be soaking wet and unreadable? If it's not soaking wet and it is readable, this is a guy who there had been various media reports had some really dark writings and his music on Spotify, sort of dark leanings. He was reading this book that was a little dark, and you just wonder if what he expressed in that notebook, and what condition is the notebook. And keep this in mind: the FBI has every type of expert you can imagine. I covered a trial where we heard from a duct tape expert who could determine that one piece of duct tape came from a roll that was found in the back of a suspect's trunk. So they have ways, I'm sure, to examine paper that we can't imagine. We keep saying this isn't a TV show, but some of those things you see on TV, those things are real. So
Some of those TV shows, like I'm just gonna throw this one out there, Forensic Files. Like these are.
See, the thing is that everybody gave the Petito Schmidt family the time to grieve Gabby. They kind of leave them alone. You know, the trolls did what the trolls did, but the majority of the people kind of let them be to grieve Gabby, and they emerged to talk to the people when they were ready. And honestly, I think the same thing should be given to the Laundries. If this is Brian, and he is dead, they deserve that right too. I think everybody deserves that right to grieve a child. And not be hounded, and not be yelled at, and not be violated in a way. And I truly do believe the protesters are violating their privacy. They're violating a lot of things. And
what I feel, and I'm very curious. I know.
But just let them have peace for a little bit. Like, geez.
If Gabby's family is watching, hello there to
I always say this, you know. I really, really hope to God that people, and I said this to trolls all the time in groups and stuff. I say, I really hope to God they don't go through something like this. Because if they did, I'd hope to God they'd get the same treatment they're giving other people. No, I know they're not, Nikki. Marissa's even talking about staying another week. You know, the thing is that it's done. You know, the search obviously is over. We know his fate. If he took his own life, was he a coward? Absolutely. But that's on him. The fact that they're not going to have the answers right away that they want. I'm talking about the Petito Schmidt family. And that they need. And I truly believe out of everybody in this whole world, they deserve those answers. But we're going to have to wait and see what they process out of that stuff, what they find, what is going on. Maybe it's all there. Maybe all the answers are there. It's hard to say, and I hope they are. Honestly, I do for the Schmidt Petito family. I hope all the answers are in that bag and in that notebook. And I hope as much attention as this has gotten, that the Laundries, if they had nothing to do with it, and I mean, they didn't know where their son was and what they said was true. If that is the case, I hope they can live a semi-normal life after this. I highly doubt that. I think their names are tarnished, and they're going to be forever known, no different than George and Cindy Anthony. They know. I mean, their life has been ruined from everything that happened, and that happened, what, 15, 16 years ago? This has to stop. I think the way that we're treating people has to stop. I think it does. At this point, two wrongs don't make a right. And I honestly do believe that the Laundrie family should be left alone. Let them deal with this. Let them bury their son. Let them do what they have to do. And then address the crap. But they only get one chance to mourn their son. It'd be a shame to take it from them. And for what it's worth, if it is Brian, my condolences do go out to the Laundries and people that knew him. I don't give two shits about him. I think he's a coward. I think he's an idiot. I think he's a lot of things. But I feel bad for the people that know him and love him. The ones that had absolutely nothing to do with anything to do with this case. You know, just like the protesters had the right to stand outside their house and make idiots of themselves yelling at a freaking house and doing all this other shit. They had the right to not talk. I don't know, it just really bothers me, as you can tell. But I don't think we're going to be getting much more information out of this. But if more comes available, I will go live again. But I do got to prepare for the show tonight. So, and I currently haven't done nothing for the show today. So, I will be back very, very soon. And yeah, take care, guys. And thanks again to Greg and Nikki for keeping me in the loop. Bye-bye.